She never imagined that stopping for a crying child in Central Park would lead her into a world of danger, passion, and a love that would change everything. There he stood, a little boy, no more than 5 years old, tears streaming down his cheeks while hundreds of people just walked past him. And in that moment, Emma Rose made a choice that would lead her into a world she never knew existed. But before we tell you how Emma went from serving cappuccinos to becoming part of a dangerous family's world, please hit that subscribe button and stick with us until the very end. And drop a comment telling us what city you're watching from. We want to see how far this story travels. Emma Rose was 28 years old, and her life was beautifully ordinary. She worked at a cafe near Columbus Circle, painted in her cramped Queens apartment, and dreamed of something more than her daily routine. That Tuesday afternoon, she was on her lunch break, walking through Central Park with a sandwich she'd barely touched, when she saw him. The little boy stood frozen on the crowded pathway, his small body shaking with sobs. He wore an expensive navy suit, the kind you see on miniature versions of Manhattan's elite, but all that money couldn't stop the terror in his dark eyes. And the crowd? They just kept walking. New York at its finest. See something, ignore something, keep moving. But Emma had never been good at walking away. "Hey, sweetheart." She knelt beside him, making her voice as gentle as possible. "Are you lost?" He looked at her with those terrified eyes, tears streaming down his cheeks, and nodded frantically. "It's okay, honey. What's your name?" Emma asked softly, reaching out her hand. "Liam," he hiccuped through his tears. "I can't find my daddy. I was following a puppy and now I don't know where he is." "Okay, Liam. That's a brave boy for telling me your name," Emma said warmly. "I'm Emma, and I'm going to help you find your daddy. Can you stay right here with me? You promise you won't leave?" His small voice broke her heart. "I promise. I'm not going anywhere," Emma said, taking his trembling hand. "Do you remember what your daddy looks like?" "He's really tall," Liam said, wiping his nose with his sleeve. "And he wears a black suit. And he has bodyguards. Big ones." Emma's stomach flipped. Bodyguards? That's when she noticed them. 3 massive men in dark suits, moving through the crowd with military precision, clearly searching for something. Or someone. Every instinct screamed danger. But Liam's face lit up. "Marcus!" he shouted, waving his free hand. "Marcus, I'm here!" The closest man spotted them, and his expression shifted from panic to pure relief. He spoke rapidly into an earpiece. "I've got him. The boy is safe. He's with a woman. Alert Mr. Steele immediately." Within seconds, all 3 men had formed a protective circle around Emma and Liam, and she instinctively pulled the boy closer. These weren't ordinary security guards. These were men who knew violence intimately. "You found him," the first man, Marcus, said, his sharp eyes assessing Emma like a potential threat. "Thank you, ma'am. He was scared. I couldn't just leave him," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Then she heard it. A voice that sliced through the crowd like a blade, deep, commanding, and absolutely furious. "Where the hell is my son?" Emma turned toward that voice, and the air left her lungs. The man walking toward them was devastating. Not handsome, devastating. Tall, powerfully built, moving through the crowd like a predator. Dark hair, sharp jawline, and eyes, God, those eyes slate gray and currently burning with a mixture of panic and rage as they searched for his son. He wore a suit that probably cost more than her annual rent, a watch that could pay her student loans, and an aura of danger that was impossible to ignore. This was someone important, someone powerful, someone you absolutely did not cross. And he was looking at Emma like he was trying to decide whether she was a hero or a threat. "Daddy!" Liam released Emma's hand and ran to him, and she watched this dangerous man completely transform. He dropped to his knees and caught his son in his arms, his face shifting from fury to overwhelming relief. "Liam. Oh God. Liam," he breathed, holding the boy like he'd never let go. "You scared me to death, buddy. What did I tell you about staying close?" "I'm sorry, Daddy," Liam sobbed into his father's shoulder. "I saw a puppy and I wanted to pet him, and then I couldn't find you anywhere. I was so scared. It's okay now. You're safe. I've got you. He held his son for a long moment. Then his eyes found Emma's over Liam's head. Those gray eyes were intense, assessing, calculating. You found my son. It wasn't a question. It was a statement, heavy with meaning she didn't quite understand yet. He was crying. I couldn't just walk past him, Emma said simply. The man stood, keeping Liam in his arms. He took a step closer to Emma, and she had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. Up close, he was even more intimidating, and somehow, even more attractive. I'm in your debt, he said, his voice deep and serious. He extended his free hand. Damien Steele. She shook it, feeling the strength in his grip. The calluses that suggested these hands did more than sign business documents. Emma Rose. Emma Rose, he repeated, like he was committing it to memory. You have a kind heart, Miss Rose. Liam, Damien said, looking at his son. What do we say to the nice lady who found you? Thank you for helping me, Liam said, giving Emma a watery smile. Then he surprised her by reaching out for a hug. She hugged him back, ruffling his dark hair. You're very welcome, sweetheart. You were very brave. When Emma looked up from Liam, Damien was watching her with an expression that made her stomach flutter intense. Focused, like he was trying to figure out a complicated puzzle. Where do you work? He asked suddenly. A cafe near Columbus Circle. Why? Because I'd like to thank you properly. May I take you to dinner? Emma blinked. That's really not necessary. It is to me, Damien interrupted, his gray eyes holding hers. You helped my son when no one else even stopped. That deserves more than a simple thank you. She should say no. Everything about this man screamed danger, but something in those eyes, something in the way he held his son with such fierce protection. Okay, Emma heard herself say. Dinner. Tonight? 7 o'clock? When she hesitated, he added, Please, let me show my gratitude. Okay, she agreed again, wondering what she was getting herself into. I'll send a car to pick you up, Damien said. Your address? Emma gave it to him, still feeling like this was surreal. Damien Steele nodded, then surprised her by taking her hand and pressing a business card into it. In case you change your mind, he said. Though I hope you won't. Then he was gone. Security surrounding him and Liam as they disappeared into the crowd. Emma looked down at the card. Simple, elegant. Just a name and a phone number. No company, no title, but somehow, she knew. Damien Steele was not an ordinary man. Emma made it back to the cafe with minutes to spare, jumped back into the afternoon rush, and tried to process what had just happened. She almost succeeded. Until she left work that evening and found a sleek black car waiting outside. Not a taxi, not an Uber. A private car with a driver in a suit who stepped out when he saw her. Miss Rose, I'm here to take you home and return at 7 to bring you to dinner with Mr. Steele. This was real. This was actually happening. The drive to her Queen's apartment should have felt normal, but Emma couldn't shake the feeling that this car, this driver, this entire situation was completely outside her ordinary life. When they arrived at her building, the driver opened her door. I'll return at 6:45, Miss Rose. Emma went inside, her mind racing. She called her best friend Rachel immediately. Rach, you're not going to believe what just happened. Try me, Rachel said. I helped a lost kid in Central Park. His father wants to take me to dinner. Tonight. Okay, and? That's sweet. Rachel. He had bodyguards. Multiple bodyguards. He's sending a private car to pick me up. And when I looked him up online because yes, I Googled him, there's barely any information. Just that he's some kind of powerful businessman. The kind where people don't ask questions. There was a pause. Emma, what kind of powerful businessman? The kind with dangerous written all over him, Emma admitted. The kind who probably has connections I don't want to know about. So why are you going to dinner? Good question. Why was she? Because when I helped his son, and he looked at me, Rachel, I've never felt anything like that. He's terrifying and magnetic at the same time. And I know it's crazy, but I have to know more. Just be careful, okay? Rachel said. And text me every hour so I know you're alive. Emma spent the next hour getting ready, changing outfits 3 times before settling on a simple black dress. Not too fancy, not too casual. At exactly 6:45, her doorbell rang. The driver was back. Professional, courteous, opening the car door for her. The drive into Manhattan felt longer than it should have. Emma watched the city lights blur past, wondering what she'd gotten herself into. They pulled up to a restaurant in Tribeca. Small, intimate, and completely empty, except for the staff and Damian Steele, standing as she entered. He looked devastatingly handsome in a dark suit, his gray eyes tracking her movement across the room. A slight smile played at his lips. "Emma," he said, and she liked the way her name sounded in his deep voice. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me," she replied, letting him pull out her chair. "I wasn't sure you would show up," Damian admitted as he sat across from her. "I thought you might research me and decide I'm too complicated." "Oh, I researched you," Emma said honestly. "There's not much to find. That's intentional." He poured her a glass of wine. "I value my privacy." "What exactly do you do, Mr. Steele?" "Damian, please." He studied her for a moment. "I manage investments and business interests. Some legitimate, some less conventional." Emma's heart raced. "Less conventional how?" "I'm not going to lie to you, Emma. I could, but I don't think you'd appreciate it." He leaned forward slightly. "My family controls certain aspects of New York's economy that operate outside traditional legal channels. We provide services, protection, and influence that money alone can't buy." "You're telling me you're what? Mafia?" Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "That's such a dramatic word," Damian said with a slight smile. "I prefer to think of myself as a businessman who operates in gray areas. But yes, if you need a label, that's accurate enough." Emma should have stood up, should have walked out, should have done anything except sit there, fascinated. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because you helped my son. Because in doing so, you became visible to people who watch my family, people who might see you as leverage against me." His gray eyes were serious now. "And because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since you knelt beside Liam in that park." Emma's breath caught. "You've been thinking about me?" "Constantly," he admitted. "The woman who saw a crying child and stopped when hundreds of others didn't. The woman who has kind eyes and a gentle touch. The woman who my son trusted instinctively." He paused. "I want to know you, Emma, but I need you to understand the risks first." "What kind of risks?" "The kind where my enemies might try to hurt you to hurt me. The kind where your life becomes complicated just by association." He looked at her intensely. "I'm giving you a choice. Walk away now, and I'll make sure you're safe. Or stay, and let me show you my world." Emma should have walked away. Every logical part of her brain screamed to leave, but her heart whispered something different. "I want to stay," she said quietly. "I want to know more." Damian's expression transformed. Relief, desire, something deeper flashed across his face. "Then let's start with dinner, and you can ask me anything you want." They talked for hours. About his late wife Sarah, who'd died 3 years ago in a car accident. About Liam, who'd stopped laughing for 6 months after losing his mother. About Emma's art, her dreams, her ordinary life that suddenly felt small in comparison. "Ordinary isn't small," Damian said. "It's precious. It's what I'm trying to protect for Liam. What I'm trying to build for him despite my world." "And what about you?" Emma asked. "What do you want?" He looked at her with those intense gray eyes. "Right now, I want to see you again, and again, until I understand why you've completely captivated me." Emma felt heat rush through her. "That's very direct. I don't believe in wasting time, Emma. Life is too short, and I've learned the hard way that you don't wait for what you want." He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. "I want you. I want to know everything about you, and I want to protect you from the darkness of my world while showing you that there can be light in it too." "That's a lot for a first date," she managed. "Is that a no?" "That's a Let's take it slow and see where this goes, Emma said. But she didn't pull her hand away from his. Damien smiled, a real, genuine smile that transformed his face. I can work with that. And so it began. Dinner became dinners. Walks in the park with Liam. Late-night phone calls, where Damien's voice would go soft and intimate. Emma found herself falling into a world she never imagined. A world of private cars and exclusive restaurants, but also a world of genuine affection and surprising tenderness. Damien was nothing like she expected. Yes, he was dangerous. Yes, his business involved things she didn't want to know too much about, but he was also fiercely protective, surprisingly funny, and absolutely devoted to his son, and Liam. God. Emma fell in love with that little boy almost as fast as she was falling for his father. 3 weeks in, Damien invited Emma to his penthouse in Manhattan. The place was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern art, expensive everything. But what struck Emma most was Liam's room, full of toys and books and photos of a smiling woman who must have been Sarah. You don't have to look away from them, Damien said, noticing her gaze. Sarah was beautiful. She was kind. She was my wife and Liam's mother, and I'll never pretend she didn't exist. I wouldn't want you to, Emma said honestly. She would have liked you, Damien said softly. She always said I needed someone who would challenge me, someone who wouldn't be intimidated by my world, but wouldn't be seduced by it either. Is that what I am? You're the woman who stopped for a crying child, Damien said, stepping closer. You're the woman who looked into my world and didn't run. You're the woman I can't stop thinking about. He cupped her face. You're the woman I'm falling in love with, even though I swore I'd never let myself feel this way again. Emma's heart was pounding. Damien, too much? He asked. No, she whispered. Not enough. He kissed her then. Soft at first, testing, then deeper when she responded. Emma melted into him, feeling like she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Damien pressed his forehead to hers. Stay tonight, he said. Just stay. Yes, Emma breathed. She stayed. The next morning, Emma woke to small hands shaking her shoulder. Emma! Emma! You're still here! Liam's excited voice filled the room. She opened her eyes to find the 5-year-old beaming at her, and Damien standing in the doorway with coffee and an apologetic smile. Sorry, Damien said. Someone was very excited to see you at breakfast. Did you have a sleepover? Liam asked, climbing onto the bed. Can Emma have sleepovers all the time now? Emma looked at Damien, who shrugged with a smile that said, You're the one he's asking. Would you like that, Liam? Emma asked carefully. Yes. You're nice and you read stories with funny voices, and you don't mind when I talk about dinosaurs forever. He looked at his dad. Can she stay forever, Daddy? That's up to Emma, buddy, Damien said, but his eyes were on her with an intensity that made her pulse race. How could she say no to those hopeful faces? She didn't. 2 months later, Emma had practically moved in. Not officially, she still kept her queen's apartment, but she spent most nights at the penthouse. Painting in the spare room Damien had converted into a studio, having breakfast with Liam, kissing Damien goodbye when he left for business meetings. She knew involved violence, because that was the reality. Damien's world wasn't just expensive dinners and private cars. It was also late-night calls, tense meetings, and the weight of knowing that danger was always lurking at the edges of their happiness. One night, Damien came home at 3 a.m. with bruised knuckles and exhaustion etched on his face. Emma was waiting in the living room, unable to sleep until she knew he was safe. You didn't have to wait up, he said quietly. Yes, I did. She led him to the bathroom and began cleaning his hands. What happened? Someone tried to move in on our territory. We had to make a statement. His gray eyes met hers. I hurt people tonight, Emma. Badly. Are you sure you can live with that? Emma was quiet for a moment, bandaging his knuckles carefully. I won't pretend I understand your world, Damien. I won't pretend it doesn't scare me sometimes. But I know you. I know the man who reads bedtime stories and makes pancakes on Sunday mornings and holds me like I'm precious. She looked up at him. That man is worth the complicated parts. I don't deserve you, he said, his voice rough. Probably not, she agreed with a small smile. But you're stuck with me anyway. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. Promise me something. What? Promise me if it ever becomes too much. You'll tell me. You won't just disappear. You'll give me a chance to make it right. I promise, Emma said. But Damien? I'm not going anywhere. For 3 beautiful months, life felt perfect. Emma had a family, love, purpose. Her art was better than ever. She'd even started preparing for a gallery show. Then came the day that shattered everything. Emma was at the cafe, working a rare shift, when her phone rang. Damien's number. She answered immediately. Emma, where are you? His voice was tight with barely controlled panic. At work. Why? What's wrong? Don't leave the cafe. Marcus is 2 minutes away to get you. Damien, you're scaring me. What's happened? Someone tried to take Liam from school. The world stopped. Emma's hand gripped the phone so hard it hurt. What? He's safe. My security got there in time. But Emma, his voice broke slightly. They know about you. You're a target now. Marcus arrived within minutes, ushering Emma into an SUV with 2 other security guards. The ride to the penthouse felt like hours. When she finally arrived, Damien was waiting. He pulled her into his arms so tightly she could barely breathe. I'm so sorry, he said against her hair. This is my fault. I should have been more careful. Should have kept you separate from my life. Where's Liam? In his room with one of my men. He's scared but unharmed. They never got close enough to touch him. He pulled back to look at her, and she saw real fear in his gray eyes. But they will try again. For him. For you. Then we deal with it, Emma said firmly. We protect each other. That's what families do. You shouldn't have to live like this. I chose this, Emma interrupted. I chose you. I chose Liam. And I'm not walking away because it gets hard. We face this together. Damien looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. But you're staying here until the threat is eliminated. No arguments. No arguments. Emma agreed. Over the next 2 weeks, Emma learned what Damien Steele was truly capable of. The violence wasn't theoretical anymore. He left for meetings and came back different, harder, colder, covered in an aura of danger that both frightened and strangely reassured her. He was protecting their family. By any means necessary. The threat was eliminated 2 weeks later. Damien came home at dawn, exhaustion and relief written on his face. It's over, he said simply. The people who ordered the attempt won't be a problem anymore. Emma didn't ask what that meant. She didn't need to. So what now? She asked quietly. Now? Damien pulled her close. Now you can go back to your apartment if you want. Back to your normal life. I'll keep security on you for a while, but the immediate danger has passed. Emma looked around the penthouse that had become home. Liam's toys scattered in the living room, her paintings on the walls, Damien standing before her, trying to give her an out she didn't want. What if I don't want to go back? She said. His expression transformed. Emma, what if I want to stay here? With you and Liam? What if this feels more like home than anywhere I've ever been? Damien kissed her then desperately, deeply, like she was air and he'd been drowning. When he pulled back, there were tears in his eyes. I'm going to marry you, Emma rose. What? That wasn't a proposal. That was a statement of fact. He smiled through his tears. I'm going to marry you. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but someday soon. I'm going to make you my wife. I'm going to give you my name and my protection and everything I have. That's very presumptuous, Mr. Steele. That's very certain, Miss Rose. He pulled her closer. You've been mine since the moment you stopped for my son. I just had to wait for you to realize you were mine too. And if I already know? Emma whispered. Then I'm the luckiest man alive. 4 months later, on a Sunday morning when Emma was making pancakes and Liam was building with blocks in the living room, Damien walked in with a small black box. Emma, he said, and something in his voice made her turn around. He got down on one knee right there in the kitchen. and Emma felt her breath catch. "Daddy's proposing!" Liam shouted, running into the kitchen. "Can I help? Please?" Damien smiled, pulling his son close. "Come here, buddy." Liam stood beside his father, both of them looking at Emma with identical hopeful expressions. "Emma Rose," Damien began, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "You brought light back into our lives when we thought the darkness would never end. You gave Liam his joy back. You gave me my heart back. You've accepted our complicated world, loved us despite our flaws, and made this place a home." He opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring. "Will you marry me? Will you be my wife and Liam's mother and choose us every day for the rest of our lives?" "Say yes," Liam whispered urgently. "Please say yes." Emma laughed through her tears. "Yes. God, yes. I'll marry you both." Damien slipped the ring on her finger while Liam cheered and jumped into both their arms. Emma held them close and realized her life had gone from ordinary to extraordinary the moment she'd chosen to help a lost child in Central Park. "I love you," Damien whispered against her hair. "I love you too," Emma replied. "Both of you. Forever." They married 3 months later in a private ceremony. Small, just family and Damien's closest associates. Emma wore a cream-colored dress, carried simple roses, and spoke her vows with tears in her eyes. "You were a stranger who became my family," Emma said, looking at Damien and Liam. "You showed me that love isn't always safe or simple, but it's always worth choosing. You are my unexpected miracle, Damien. My beautiful, dangerous, impossible love." Damien's vows were simpler. "I chose you in Central Park the moment you helped Liam. I chose you every day after, as I fell deeper in love. And I choose you now, forever. You are my heart, Emma Steele. My home, my everything." When the officiant said, "You may kiss your bride," Liam shouted, "Can I kiss her too?" And the whole room erupted in laughter. A year after their wedding, Emma stood in her home studio, looking at the invitation for her first solo gallery exhibition. 20 paintings exploring the intersection of light and shadow, danger and beauty, the complicated nature of loving someone impossible. "They're going to love it," Damien said from the doorway, Liam on his hip. The boy was 6 now, confident and chattering constantly. "They're going to ask questions about my inspiration, and you'll tell them the truth," Damien said. "That you found love in an unexpected moment. That sometimes the bravest choice is the most dangerous one." He kissed her softly. "That you stopped for a lost child and found your family." "Best decision I ever made," Emma said. "Second best," Damien corrected. "The best was saying yes when I proposed." "Daddy's right," Liam chimed in. "Because now you're my mom. Forever and ever." Emma laughed, pulling them both close, and she knew they were right. Stopping for Liam had brought her to them, but choosing to stay, choosing to love them despite the danger, despite the complications, despite everything that had been the real decision, the brave decision, the decision that saved not just Liam that day, but saved her too. Because sometimes love isn't safe or simple or easy. Sometimes it's complicated and dangerous and absolutely worth it. And sometimes, the most ordinary moment helping a lost child leads to the most extraordinary life. That's Emma's story. From cappuccinos to becoming part of a world she never imagined. All because she chose to stop when everyone else walked away. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and share it. And don't forget to comment below with your city. We want to see how far Emma's story reaches. Because that's the thing about love stories like Emma's. They remind us that magic happens when we choose kindness. When we choose to see people who need help. When we choose to stop and care when it would be easier to keep walking. Until next time.